Capital markets and private equity are two major issues that concern the shipping industry worldwide. What exactly is the role of private equity nowadays, especially when bank borrowing is very low when it comes to shipping industry?
Yeah. Well, private equity started floating the industry back in 2013, 2014. They went in a bit in a weird fashion through new builds and so on and so forth in both the tanker market and the dry bulk market. So they've come a long way. They've been challenged. Private equities are still looking at the industry, but in a very different fashion. They've become definitely smarter over time. Looking now, moving from traditional equity joint venture structures to more data-like structures. That's why you tend to see right now private equities creating ship lending funds and try to invest in the sector through a safer way that creates better alignment of interest with the ship owner, senior to them, and being happy to actually cap their return, which is, I think, a healthier way both for the ship owner and for the private equity. I think that's overall the sector is still an interesting one for private equities and hedge funds, and I think we're going to keep on seeing a lot of capital going into it, especially from the debt side and the debt angle.
Compared to the traditional ways of financing the shipping industry, what percentage, if you like, does the private equity hold when it comes to the lending?
Well, it's still unfortunately a small percentage because if you compare, banks used to lend back in 2010 almost 80 billion in the sector. They're down to 40 through redemptions and defaults even in some cases. I think you're looking for no more than 10 to 15 billion being invested from the private equity world. So they're still scratching the surface of the overall capital need that there is in the sector. Don't forget that we haven't seen major new building in the sector altogether. So this has to be funded somehow. So that is also a space where private equities will play a role in the coming years for sure.
Where does private equity come from in terms of national identity, if you like? China, maybe Northern European countries, America, where from?
No, it's still the US, primarily it's the US. You do have US funds that they have European offices and they're focusing out of their European offices in shipping. But primarily let's say the people that they fund these private equities are mostly US investors.
And what exactly is the focus of the private equity? What do they tend to prefer more when it comes to lending to ship owners?
They are a bit agnostic in terms of sector and in terms of geography. Well, they tend to. They tend to prefer sectors with a bit more liquidity, but they will always go for the right type of transaction and the right type of asset class and the right type of return. They will always go for it.
Finally, a comment on the Capital Link.
It's a great organization. You guys have grown massively over the years and keep on doing a great job.